Welcome back to another episode of Controversialism with Ankur Bhuya. Out of the game for some time now, and I must say things are amazing at present. Couldn't be any better. Today I'm back. Today I'm again taking an issue which is very close to my heart. So rather than just wasting your time on an introduction, I will get on with it. Throughout the history of mankind, global and even national policies of nations have revolved around power centers. What is a power center? If you ask, it is simply a superpower in current times. It is with each passing century, there have come and gone by many superpowers. In the 19th century, it was Britain, and in the 20th century, we saw the rise of the United States of America as the undisputed superpower in the world. When it comes to power dynamics, one concept is very important, which is known as polarity. The concept of power polarity, just like in science, when we talk about positive or negative charge, in politics, we see the same phenomena. Two power centers or more tend to form a division in ideologies. With every century that has gone by, we have observed the concept of two opposing polarities. In the 18th and 19th centuries, there was multipolarity between France, Spain, Portugal, British, Danish, and many more. During the 20th century, we saw multipolarity again in the form of the Allies and the Axis powers. Even after World War II, multipolarity still existed in the form of a power struggle between the United States of America and the Soviet Union, which triggered the Cold War. Post 1990, after the fall of the Soviet Union, for the first time in the next 3 decades, we saw the emergence of a mostly unipolar world. There was just one undisputed power in the world left, which was the United States of America. But just as it is stated in the law of physics, a unipolar world would not sustain itself. Every positive charge needs a neutralizing negative charge to maintain balance and entropy. Thus, we saw the resurgence of a dichotomy coming in the form of a rapidly growing China with its large appetite for power and struggle, just power by the way, and also a resurgence of Russia. Under the leadership of President Putin, the Russian resolve to restore its lost prestige has taken on an obsessive characteristic. And of course, non-aligned, non-partisan, neutral powers also gained prominence, like India. The point here is that natural multipolarity, where nations with their growing appetite and strength would rise to challenge the status quo. In the 21st century, we saw the United States being involved in various geopolitical crises, one after the other. It was in the pursuit of a new world order, dipped in Western sentiments and ambitions. Multiple wars were fought, dictators toppled, oil fields captured, and a military-industrial complex was fed through a treasure trove of expensive contracts. But in such a situation, when you are stretched too thin like a rubber band, one day you are bound to snap. During this time, China capitalized on its deepening reformist policy introduced by Deng Xiaoping, with skyrocketed rapid industrialization, fast infrastructure, and light-speed militarization, earning the title of the world's manufacturing shop. Xi Jinping inherited a China which was ready to challenge the unipolarity of the United States and its Western allies. President Putin, who first-hand witnessed the humiliating collapse of the Soviet Union, must have been livid with rage when the Berlin Wall fell. The former KGB operative made it his life's mission to challenge the hegemony of the West. Russia witnessed a massive ramp-up of capacity in various sectors. even under the threat of sanctions. The level of preparedness can be seen in the fact that despite the 2-year-long war with Ukraine and over 16,500 sanctions slapped on Russia by the West, on top of the $350 billion frozen forex, the Russian economy has still not collapsed. Energy exports from Russia are booming and the war economy is strengthening. Russia's GDP growth, which is recorded at 2.6% this year, is surprisingly, it has outperformed the UK, whose growth rate is at 0.6%, and even the European Union, whose growth rate is 0.9%. As a student of warfare, what is more mind-blowing is the fact that Russia has held its ground and expanded into Ukrainian territories despite fighting the entire Western Hemisphere. It is no secret that the United States has pumped about $75 billion into Ukraine's war effort, and the European Union has pumped in $27.3 billion. Ukraine has been given sophisticated weapons by the West, most crucially the air defense systems like the Patriot missile system and the shoulder-mounted systems like the Javelin, which negated the edge Russia has in the form of its air force. In essence, the Russian armed forces are fighting NATO, which is in disguise. Won't be surprised if there have been boots on the ground from these countries. This brings us to the second half of the segment. The multipolar world is back. It is back with a vengeance. Russia and China are in a symbiotic relationship. China is hungry for energy supplies, weaponry and technology, plus a new market to sell its products if there is a trade war going on between the United States and China, leading to protectionist sentiments. In return, as I mentioned, Russia has become heavily reliant on Chinese goods and services to keep its stock of essential commodities, rare earth metals, economic goods and ammunition and weapon platforms. I call this a symbiotic relationship because they have taken the shape of a lichen. Jumping into the mix are North Korea and Iran with their various proxies. The quadrilateral alliance is now emboldened to challenge the hegemony of the West. The global world order had a chance to maintain peace and stability. With nuclear weapons, many experts believed that conventional war of attrition will become a thing of the past. As global dictators started to fall, like Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi, Putin became wary of America's intentions. After the fall of the Soviet Union, it was mutually accepted that NATO would not expand eastwards towards Russia. But the 12-member alliance formed by Europe and North America has now swelled to 32 countries with a series of expansions. In 1999, when Poland joined the NATO alliance, Russia was fuming with rage. Georgia and Ukraine also showed interest in joining the NATO alliance, which would have brought NATO to the doorstep of Russia, which is the primary reason for this conflict. In fact, psychological wars only worked to a certain point, post which the power of interpretation loses its credibility. And in the event of impending doom, nations move past their fear to fight against oppression. Russia called NATO's bluff and annexed Georgia, Crimea, and now Ukraine. Article 5, which binds NATO as a military alliance wherein all the members have to put into action against aggression towards even a single member, did not hold during those times of Russian military campaigns. Still, unofficially under President Joe Biden, this war can be seen as a NATO-Russia conflict. Now it seems that even China is going to pursue its one China policy, and that's why they are repeatedly violating Taiwanese airspace, issuing threats to its neighbors in the South China Sea, especially the Philippines, and also staking claim to the Indian territories of Arunachal Pradesh. The Ukraine conflict has shown that when push comes to shove, then the United States and NATO might not keep its Article 5 style alliances. President Zelensky is slowly losing political credit on the global stage and finds himself more and more isolated. West Asia has flared up like never before, with Benjamin Netanyahu positioning as a person hell-bent on bending the collective will of the Middle East. The war, it seems, has spread to Lebanon and Iran after the Israeli act of bombing Iran's embassy in Syria and now killing a top Hezbollah commander and also Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas. It also includes a senior Iranian general, Mohammad Raza Zahidi, a senior member of the Revolutionary Guard Corps, oversees Quds forces. The world is at a knife's edge as Iran prepares 100 cruise missiles for action in retaliation. The world, it seems, has stopped using its modern prefrontal cortex in the brain and switched to a limbic system, the primitive part of the brain we share with most apes, in fact. In this entire situation, there is one trump card, and that is India. We have become the fastest growing major economy in the world. In terms of military strength, India has become a formidable force, becoming one of the largest armed forces in the world. Also, with deep battle experience like the Kargil War and the constant counterinsurgency operations and counter-terrorist operations that we carry out, India has reserved its age-old policy of non-alignment and maintaining neutrality. But we are still looking at our national interest first. We are still importing energy from Russia, which, by the way, Europe is also doing through its shadow fleet and middlemen, like importing Russian oil by rerouting trade shipments through Venezuela. Despite CAATSA law, which limits US defense imports and attracts sanctions against countries importing military equipment from US rivals, India bought the S-400 weapons platform but was not pinned with any sanctions. India maintains a stoic face, but I'm sure that in the halls of the foreign ministry, bureaucrats must be pulling their hair out, expecting a diplomatic nightmare. We have a rich historical relationship with Russia, but there also exists an intense relationship with China. Russia did support us in various wars. The United States was once wary of India and actively supported Pakistan to contain India, whereas the Russians sent nuclear armadas to shield India from America's and Britain's nuclear warship in the 1971 war against Pakistan. But it seems that China is becoming Russia's best friend, united against the common enemy we all know of. India is experiencing a very hostile neighborhood given the Chinese intrusion in South Asian geopolitics. Maybe this time we will not be able to stand on the ringside and will have to jump into the fight. Every century has been marked with large-scale conflicts where nations have written their history in blood. After World War I, nobody thought that there would be a World War II. Every century has seen major global conflicts, and now in the 21st century, the world finds itself at crossroads. The Third World War, if it happens, will be fought with sophisticated weapons capable of Armageddon. But we should just remember that the Fourth World War will be fought with sticks and stones as we get blasted back to the Stone Age. So that was a little bit of a rant which I did. I hope you liked it. If you did, then please support me in any way you can, rather just liking, sharing and subscribing. And I will see you soon in the next episode. Thank you, fantastic folks.